for me early on, it was difficult for me to wrestle between Jonathan Isaac, the African American, and Jonathan Isaac, the Christian. And I felt that there were two competing things. Not that they are mutually exclusive, but in that moment, inside I was angry. I was upset about what had happened, but I also was thinking about, God, where does this fit? What does this mean?
Hello, Bible lovers. Welcome to another episode of Unscrolled, the Museum of the Bible's podcast about and around the Bible. We're joined today by somebody who wears many hats, a pastor, a husband, a father, and by the way, an NBA player at the Orlando Magic, Jonathan Isaac. Welcome to Unscrolled, Jonathan.
Thank you so much for the intro. we could scratch the pastor though. Not a pastor.
Oh, we were just talking about it. You preach once in a while, so yeah.
Every now and then, but no, not
it's
a pastor.
Not a profession, but
no,
a passion.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. We're obviously here because this is the World Stage Theater for those people watching on video, and you're on big stages. And today's stage is a little bit different than the usual one. We're going to introduce your Isaac One, Judo One,
yes sir.
Your Judo One to the museum as an exhibit.
Yes,
so a different kind of stage. And to understand the story of the Judo One or your shoe and your endeavor there, I think we got to understand your story a little bit. So I want to go back. A lot of people probably have heard that before, but just want to go through that. So maybe start off, you're 6'10", right?
6'11".
6'11".
Give me that inch,
You still
man.
grew, oh man, son, we got to correct Wikipedia there.
Okay, yes, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, no, so 6'11", and I assume you were born 4 feet tall, but you were, but you were tall, and sports, I'm pretty sure was a topic very early on. So how did you discover basketball? Was that always your dream to be a basketball player?
Honestly, no. I didn't even play. I didn't really take basketball seriously until really high school. I played in middle school, but it wasn't something that I was like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I honestly I didn't know that it was really a thing, that somebody like me, where I came from, could really like go to the NBA. It was like this dream that was outside of reach. And so I just played for fun. And slowly but surely, I fell in love with the game. And then I felt like one door opened after another. It wasn't something that I was really pursuing. Even when I was at Florida State University for college, I didn't feel like I was ready to go to the NBA. They kind of kicked me out the door. But it was just something that I just fell in love with doing, and still do. So
you say where I'm from, who I am. What do you think didn't qualify you?
Yeah, well, a lot. I mean, one, just growing up in the Bronx. My mom worked a bunch of jobs. Dad worked at McDonald's. It was just like, felt like it was so outside of what was humanly possible from my stage. And then early on for me, I would say I had a lot of self-insecurity. There was a fear about just the unknown, about what I could do, what I was capable of. And that bled into basketball for quite a bit of my life. But just growing up, it was like, I can't be the one that's going to do that or do this. Like, it's not possible. And so to kind of be here is really surreal and really speaks of the grace and the goodness of God.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because basketball, there's a lot of taunting, a lot of big talk and, self-confidence, being cocky and domination. And it doesn't seem really like that's you, right?
No, it's not me at all. It's not me at all. And funny enough, there's even been seasons in my life where I've tried to like pull that out of me because I feel like I needed it, but it just doesn't fit. It's just not who I am. And the way that I am has served me well up until this point. And I think even like being a defensive player kind of helps me in that I'm not the person that's going out there saying, hey, I'm going to do this or that. Usually they're doing that to me and I'm the one that's stopping them. So it's kind of funny how that works out.
Yeah, so here you are on a stage being interviewed on a podcast. You launched your shoe. It's going to be at the museum. I'm pretty sure when your mom tied your shoes for the first time on the court, nobody thought you would be here or be in training camp for, which season is it?
It's going to be
9th season?
Yeah.
That's surreal, right? Looking back, do you realize that, or is it just so normal right now that you think?
No, I feel like I often find myself like taking a second and trying to grasp just the gravity of this moment, just the gravity of my life being in the NBA, like you said, going on 9 seasons, and it still escapes me, which I feel like is the revelation of how great it is. Not in terms of who I am, but just about God's graciousness and goodness and love for me to put me in this position. And I feel like I'm still trying to grab a hold of it to really understand it for what it is.
So you mentioned God. When did he come into the picture?
God came into the picture pretty early on. My dad had us in church. Like he was really like militant. Like the Bible was going to be a part of our lives. We had to memorize like whole Psalms when I was younger. So Psalm 23, Psalms 1, all these different Psalms we had to memorize. Yes, 119.
You the whole one?
And recite them in church.
Oh,
That's what we had to do. And so, but early on, like God for me wasn't like this beautiful relationship that God wanted to walk with me and teach me and to have just like a real interpersonal relationship. It was more like this authority figure that we had this tradition of going to church and trying our best to follow rules. And I don't think my dad intended it to be that way, but that's how it just, as a kid, it came off. You know, we went to church and I went to the type of church that everybody was hooping and hollering and running around and falling out. So it was just, it felt out of reach as a kid, and it felt kind of theatrical. But I didn't truly understand the goodness of God, his grace, until I got to the NBA, actually.
Oh, that late.
Where I truly became a Christian and said, man, I want Jesus Christ to be Lord and Savior of my life. And I want to live in a way to the best of my ability that glorifies and honors him.
Wow. So what did change?
So, a whole lot, man. I moved from Bronx, New York to Naples, Florida when I was 10. My parents split up. And I went from a predominantly black community to a predominantly white community. And I really struggled with fitting in, struggled with making friends. My nickname was Ethiopia just because of how skinny and tall I was. And I got these high cheekbones. So kids.
They put you in track and field for it?
No. Funny enough, I did try track and field. I wasn't that kind of African. I wasn't that fast. But yeah, man, it kind of plagued me with that self-insecurity that I talked about earlier. Having this big switch, trying to make friends, and basketball became this like place of peace and solace for me, away from the world, away from judgment, away from even just how I saw myself. I just fell in love with the game. I had these memories of just being at the park by myself late at night, running up and down, just shooting a basketball. And but the game brought a lot of anxiety and fear for me as I got better, to where I was getting all of this love and attention from everybody from everybody around me, the better I got. So I became the #1 player in the state of Florida. And I was so used to having all of this validation all the time. But at the same time, I was so afraid of losing the validation from a bad game, from a missed shot, that this anxiety on the inside of me would rise up. And I would try my best to kind of coast this up and down of, they love me, I want them to love me, and I don't want them to stop loving me. And to the point where I was at Florida State, the #1 player in the state of Florida, on anxiety medication to play. And so I've always had this internal struggle and turmoil about the way that I perceive myself, the way that others perceive me. And it wasn't until I got to the NBA that I was introduced to the God of the Bible in a way that was the unconditional love, accepting me for where I'm at and leading me on a journey to growing, to becoming more like him. And it was his love that has started to shape the little traumatized little boy on the inside of me, saying, I love you, I'm here for you, and we're going to get through this. And that journey has got me to this point.
Oh, and who introduced you to God? There was the God of the Bible.
Yeah. So there's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Hepburn who I met on an elevator. And he stopped me and he said to me, I can tell you how to be great. And I said, how? And he said, you have to know Jesus. And from that moment on, my life, there's that Will Smith song, my life got flipped upside down. But it was really like that, like these just crazy coincidences of running into him and running into other people, and then things just fitting into place, that I was brought to a place of saying, God, you're real. Like, you're not just real from a standpoint of I'm labeling myself a Christian, but you're real and tangible and alive. And that's what really brought me to the truth.
Wow. When was that?
That was my first year in the league, so 2017, 18.
So you're not messing around. 3 years later, the big moment that we have to talk about, July 31st, 2020.
Yeah.
For people, context, who forgot? I don't think people forget.
Right.
Height of COVID, height of social justice unrest, 2 months after George Floyd. Everybody wearing black T-shirts
Yep.
with Black Lives Matter, being on their knees,
Yep.
and the only person standing like a Thor thumb to expand it in a white and blue Orlando Magic jersey, 6'11" tall.
Yes, sir.
You standing there sticking out, not taking a knee.
Yeah.
How did
we get there? That's a great question. God, man, it's like I didn't know what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
Right? It's like God, I believe in you. I trust you. I'm going to become a Christian truly, and I don't know what this looks like. I don't know what you have for me, where you're going to take me, what you want me to do. But I definitely didn't know that this was in the cards. And so I was just on this journey of growing in faith, growing in a genuine relationship with Christ. And we get to this moment where you have the tragic death of George Floyd. And for me early on, it was difficult for me to wrestle between Jonathan Isaac, the African American, and Jonathan Isaac, the Christian. And I felt that there were two competing things. Not that they are mutually exclusive, but in that moment, inside I was angry. I was upset about what had happened, but I also was thinking about, God, where does this fit? What does this mean? And early on, my pastor, Dr. Hepburn, was preaching, and he preached about this moment where Jesus is captured by the Roman guards, and Peter lunges forward and said, cuts off the guy's ear. And Jesus says, if you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword. And Doc said, hey, if we step into this moment, with what feels natural to us, anger, revenge, we're going to get the same result. But if we step into this moment with love and grace and lifting up the name of Christ, which ultimately is going to can and will heal the hearts that are receptive, then we can have real change between black and white people, not in a way that's superficial, not in a way that's fake, but in a way that's real. And I took that to go, I recognized the issue, I recognized what happened, but I believe that this is the solution. I believe that the solution is loving each other the way that God loves us, which is in spite of our sin, in spite of our shortcomings. And if we could do that, which is really difficult to do and something you can't do without Christ, then we could have real change. And so I went into that moment going, hey guys, I recognize the issue. I recognize the problem.
So you spoke with the team?
Yes, I did speak with the team. I'm not discounting what happened, but I have a different solution other than kneeling for the national anthem or wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt, which in ways I felt was surface level and not actually getting to the heart of the issue and could actually just bring more division rather than bringing people together. And that's how we got to that moment of me being the only one standing. Oh yeah, you want to get to the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was rough to walk through. I remember we had a team meeting, and the sentiment in the room was we don't really have a choice because there was a team that knelt the day before us. And so now if we didn't kneel, it would be like we weren't on board with what was happening. And
peer pressure.
And guys are just like, we don't have a choice. Like, let's just do it. We get it over with. And I still don't know to this day why, but one of my teammates turned towards me and said, well, Jonathan, what are you gonna do? And I look around and I go, fellas, I'm not gonna kneel and I'm not gonna wear that t-shirt. And, everybody, kind of throws up their hands. Oh my gosh, here we go. And one of them said, why? Like, what's your reason? And that's like what I said. I said, I can't throw stones from a glass house. I need grace. I need forgiveness. There's things that I've done that weren't caught on camera, but God has forgiven me. And if we could step into this moment and just choose love, just choose grace, just choose not righting a wrong, not saying that consequences shouldn't be handed out, but choosing to be the one to reach the arm across the aisle first, then that could be something beautiful. And that's what I decided to go with.
Yeah, there's a path of least resistance, right? And it seems like some people say we just got to do it because everybody else does. Yeah. And then there's the subject matter, the content, what your conviction, what you speak of. Did you have conversations with those guys, kind of who? I'm sure there's other believers on the team who kind of understand where you're coming from.
Well, no.
There
wasn't anybody else that. Well, there were guys on the team that knew my character, right? They weren't Christian, but they're going, hey, like, we know Jonathan. Like, this isn't about, him wanting to make a big fuss of something. This isn't about him wanting to just steal the spotlight or make. This is something that he has to truly feel in his heart of hearts if he's going to say anything. And so I had teammates that kind of spoke up for me and just said, hey, but just if he wants to stand, let him stand. Like, we don't have to make this a big issue. And but I had also had teammates that were like, look, I'll stay in the locker room. Like, I'm not kneeling next to you standing. And one of our vets on the team pretty much calmed everybody down and said, hey, everybody do what you say you're going to do. If Jonathan, if you're going to stand, stand. Everybody who's going to kneel, kneel, and we'll just go at this, head on. And that's what we did.
So it was born in the moment,
yeah.
Or did you prep for it? It was really in the locker room when it came
well,
up. Well,
I knew what I was going to do, and
okay.
I had already had my mindset made up, and my mindset was more solidified that night because I spoke to my pastor at the time, and I called him on the phone, and I said, hey, this is what's happening. And I was trying to get him to understand like the gravity of the moment, because I understood like I'm gonna be hated. Like I'm gonna be a sellout, in the sense, in terms of, from the Black community. And there's a lot of people who are gonna see this as me justifying what happened. There's a lot of people gonna see this as me making light of what happened, or just trying to slap Jesus on something. And my contract extension was up that summer after the playoffs. And so there was something in the back of my head going, there's an opportunity of you not being able to play anymore. If this goes south.
And you knew that coming in, you calculated that before?
And so when I told that to my pastor, he said something. He said, look, Jonathan, you cannot stand and God not stand for you. And that was when it was like, I got you. This is what I'm supposed to do. Or at least I felt that way.
But then the floodgates
of
social media and culture and whatever dumped on you, and you were just there standing in the rain. How did you go through this? I can somewhat sympathize. I had to deal with my parents when I grew up.
Gotcha.
I was big into soccer, right?
Gotcha.
And I was told, because we just had one Sunday morning service at 10 o'clock, once you start playing on Sunday mornings, you have to go to your coach and tell him that he can't play soccer anymore. So I had to go to him and tell him that, this is it. I know I was 16 years old at the time. And for me, it was a starting point to realize, is that my faith or whose faith was it? Right? But it's a small thing. I had a stage of 3. You have a stage of 300 million who watch. So the dimension of what's pouring down on you, you can't overstate the burden or the downpour that went down on you. How did you deal with that?
I would love to say like, man, it was easy. Like I was like, hey man, I got this. It rolled off my back, but it was tough, man. It's tough, especially somebody from my background. And that's how I kind of know it's God, because that would have been the last thing that I would have wanted to do in terms of just how I deal with anxiety and my care for what other people think, like just growing up, I talked about that. Like, and so to be able to get through that, it was tough. I really had to lean on the people around me. But I think most of all, just lean on the fact that I believed that it was God. I believed that, hey, like this is what I'm supposed to do. This is where I'm supposed to be. This was supposed to be happening. And wasn't easy. Had a lot of ups and downs. Went through some depression through it. But it was like, I also saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I also got so much encouragement from people that didn't know me, but understood where I was coming from and understood the gospel message in it. So
did you block things out? Did you stop
looking at social media? To the best of my ability,
media,
I tried. I tried to stay off socials, tried to, not interact with a lot of people, but it's tough. You can't do that and kind of live a normal life in my case of just being in the NBA. And so I kind of got used to, some negative comments, some negative looks, but I also feel like I kind of got strengthened through it to go on to do what I'm doing now. And I feel like God was preparing me. And
I guess even the people that live close to you or the people who encourage you somehow have to discern what's their motivation. Because I know that there were some people who were just using you as a tool for their personal agendas.
Right, of course, yeah.
And there's other people who are genuinely interested in who you are and how did you figure that out, who's the right person to associate with?
The way I figured that out was completely being authentic about what my message was. So whether I was on a right-wing TV show or station or Fox News or something, I was explicit about, hey, this is about Jesus, and this is why I did that. And if I was on, left-leaning, none of them wanted to call me to have me talk. But if I was going anywhere to talk to anybody, I kept the message, what it was, that Jesus is the answer, that he said, if he be lifted up, that he would draw all men to himself. And that in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, seek my face and pray and turn from their wicked ways, I'll hear from heaven and I'll heal their land. That's what I was holding on to. And so that was that. I just tried my best to keep that message consistent. And some people grabbed it. Some people, like you said, they wanted to make it all about the anthem. They wanted to make it all about, me not caring about Black lives. But it was like, hey, I mean, that's obviously not what it is. And I've always, been consistent about my love for the country. But at the end of the day, Christ was it. Christ was the crux of it.
It's almost like a Gethsemane moment that you have there, right? Where you know what's coming.
Yeah, no, I was sweating blood. I was sweating some blood.
So at some point, things turned a little bit, right? Was that just, you think things went away, or did you actually see some people kind of getting engaged in your train of thought? Did people just loosen up, and the power of kind of a cultural and peer pressure loosened? Did you see some sort of a turnaround where people engaged more with what you actually wanted to say rather than what you did in the moment?
Right. Well, I definitely saw a turnaround. I think there was a lot of different reasons. One, just time. I think that it was such a high emotional moment, and there was so much attached to it. There was so much riding on it in a lot of people's eyes that as time went on, people kind of just relaxed a little bit and said, some people were like, hey, like, man, I got pretty worked up about that, and just
really?
kind of, I had a conversation with a teammate, and he said, man, I'm sorry. He was like, looking back, like, I can see how I was so emotional, and, like, and even just with time, like, some stuff came out about the Black Lives Matter organization and the way that they used funds and stuff like that. And I think a lot had changed. I think a lot of people realized, like, hey, we still got to go out and live every day and interact with the people that we think hate us, or we hate them, and we still got to live life. And I think just over time, it's kind of, everybody just kind of relaxed a little bit. And I've seen in that, I've been able to have more conversations, or more people have warmed up to, hey, Christ may be the answer. I've gotten a lot of that. And there's like a whole revival going on right now. Like, I know a lot of young people are turning to Christ. There's a lot of people looking at the world going, man, there has to be more than this. And I think God is
pendulum swinging back. Yeah. So your career obviously didn't end, right? They held on to you. I think that
Praise God.
I'm sure there were some conversation that you had with the organization about that. Did they apply pressure to you, or were they fine?
No, honestly, they're fine. I love the DeVos family. They're awesome. I think I guess there was like some housekeeping stuff. Like, I knew that they had to put out a statement that was a generalization of the organization and stuff like that. So I didn't feel no ways about that.
Okay.
And but it's been fine. I'm grateful to still be there, and grateful they kept me.
Yeah, but you were a first-round draft pick, right?
Yes, sir.
And typically that comes with shoe deals and things like that. Yeah. And that was an avenue at that moment. It was closed for you too, right?
Yes. So I was signed to Nike at the time. I got injured in the bubble, pretty catastrophic injury, and they decided not to re-sign me. And that's ultimately how the Judah ones came to life, because
that's where I'm going,
I went to that same guy that I met in the elevator, and I said, hey, when I get back from injury, I'll probably try to re-sign with Nike or try to sign with somebody else. And he said, why don't you make your own shoe? And
he said that?
He said that. He said, why don't you make your own shoe? And I said, maybe because that's what players don't do. Like, that doesn't happen. And that's why guys go with brands. And he was just like, now you should look into it. And honestly, like, everything just started to fall into place. I called my agent and started meeting the right people. John Olinger came around. He was working on Mama brand, decided to leave Nike. He was figuring his life out. And it just worked. And we were
so God just put the right people in your path, because you said you struggled with figuring out, can I do this? Am I equipped to do stuff? You're a basketball player, and now you're starting a business.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point? How did you feel like, that's something, it's one thing, somebody tells you in an elevator an idea and say, that's a cool idea, let me figure that out, maybe when I retire, I'll do something like, but you don't mess around, you just acted on it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I still struggle with the fact that this is a real thing, that we're really doing this, we really have a business, we really have a website. Like that kills me just to think about. So yeah, we just kind of just put one foot in front of the other, and it was every step was trusting God. Every step was like, God, is this what we're supposed to be doing? Even from the design to the judo one. I went to UCF and got connected with them and had the design school come up with some stuff to help us out, and was like, that was just a thought that popped in my head to say, hey, I saw that in a movie once, and I was like, okay, God, this must be you, and we just put one foot in front of the other, and it turned out great.
Yeah, as you keep quoting Bible verses, right? And that's the perfect place to do this, but it just comes natural to you. And I'm thinking of not everybody who says, Lord, Lord, but the one who does my will,
Yes,
is the one that's entering the kingdom. I'm paraphrasing, right?
You got it.
And that seems like that's your story, and you kind of picked those verses, and it was that kind of feeding into creating this brand and coming up with the name Unitus, right? Obviously seems something that's really appropriate in terms of your reaction to the situation.
It really
right?
does. It really does.
And then the verses, tell us about this brand, how this all came together.
So really it was just about being authentic, to me. So I'm like, hey, if I'm going to create a shoe that I'm going to wear in the NBA, like, it would be so dope for it to have Bible verses on it. It really wasn't like this big thing of like, we should put Bible verses on shoes. It was like, I would love for that to be the case, and let's figure out how to incorporate it. And then the kind of light bulbs went off to like, why are we just doing this for me? Why not create an entire brand, that's bringing believers together across all different lines and, uniting us as one, being able to wear Bible verses as you go and play on the court. I started thinking about little kids. Like, could you imagine little kids going to play in high school basketball wearing sneakers with Bible verses on them? Like, how cool would that be? And I remember wearing them and being so encouraged, like on the free throw line in the game, and thinking about the fact that I can look down and see a Bible verse to encourage me. Like, that's huge. And so it just, like you said, it just kind of worked out and put one foot in front of the other. And we were just trying our best to be authentic. And the name Unitus, which again was coined by Dr. Duran Hepburn. And he was at the altar one day, and he called me and said, hey, I'm at the altar. And he was like, I'm sitting here, and I was thinking to myself, God, you're the only one that can unite us. White, black, men, women, rich, poor, you're the only one that can unite us. He was like, unite us. You should name it Unitus.
Wow. There's a rapper, Propaganda, and he has a line in the song. I think it's in what's it called? Precious Puritans, I think is the song. And he said something. I wrote it down. I have to look it up. Yeah, here he said, "It must be nice not to consider race," right? And race is a big topic, And I like how organic, how authentic you bring it in without pushing anything. But at the same time, you really speak up. Right, and we have to talk about this as an occasion. So, as part of the equation. So, how does race, from a biblical perspective, the view of it, play into this whole situation? How do you do this? How do you make this a topic or not?
Yeah, I think that there's a few different avenues. There's a reality that exists on earth that does not exist in the kingdom of heaven, and that is something that we do have to wrestle with. The fact that there is no race in the kingdom of God. We're one race. We're a body. There's no bloodline. There's no you're my brother, you're my sister. We are brother and sister in Christ. And I think that is something that is so unique and so outside of what's normal here on earth, that wrestling with that idea, it's difficult, because to live in the United States, to live anywhere, there's such a this is my people. This is my kinship. This is who, we fight together, we ride together, we're right together, we're wrong together. And there's a reality to that. But when you step into the kingdom, that's just not the case. And you put on a new family, you become a new citizen of a new kingdom. And I think that's just something that we struggle with as people, because we're so used to the tribalism, we're so used to coming into the world and being a part of groups. And but at the end of the day, we're still here. And so there is a reality to race. There is a reality to hierarchies and the way that things roll out with just, being in America and Black people coming from slavery. There's a reality to it. And but I think God's love is the answer. ultimately. I think being able to love who you see, regardless of what they look like, regardless of what they have, and regardless of what they can offer you, is Bible. It is God. It is Christian. And the more that we become like Jesus should be, the more that we grow in that idea of I can love anybody, regardless of what they can do for me, and I should do that. And that should be a mark of a Christian.
But at the same time, I don't think you're saying we should be colorblind, right?
Right, exactly, for sure. That's what I mean when I say there's a reality to the fact that there are black and white and brown.
And God created us as super diverse with unique characteristics. I'm different than my wife. I'm different than you. I'm different than my Vietnamese friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that there's a I don't know what the right word is, but there's a duality in the fact that no, we shouldn't be colorblind, but in Christianity there is colorblindness in the fact that we are all one body, one people. There's no black, white, and you know what I'm saying? Like you're my brother. Like in the literal sense, even more sense of blood, and even the more that I should treat you that way on a day-to-day basis. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So you suggest the message of the gospel, the message of the Bible being the solution.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And so practically, when you have conversations with people, how does it? You do a lot of stuff at work where you invest in people, where you do your charities and you do stuff. But for somebody else saying, so what does that mean? It feels rather theological or high level. But what exactly does that mean? How does social justice? How is it being solved by the message of the Bible? How does it speak into that?
I think it's being solved in good works and loving one another and coming together. And I don't think there's like a set thing that's like, this is what has to happen or this is what needs to happen. I think it's on a personal, one-on-one, everyday level. The good that we do should be for people that are less fortunate, should be for people who don't have, should be for people that can't do for themselves. But I also think not on the basis of race. I think it should just be out of the goodness of our hearts to do things for other people. And I also want to say that is happening. Like Christianity is doing that on a large scale. And I think that there's a lot of people who don't see that or don't recognize that. But I'm pretty sure Christians are the most generous, take in the most kids, build the most hospitals, like everything like that. And so the reality is, I almost don't want to say it, but it's true. Christians are doing a lot of the heavy lifting that happens in our society today. Nonprofits, social justice. Christians are behind a lot of it. And I think that's not something that is celebrated enough or taken into account. And so I'm hesitant to be like hey, we need to do this, that, and the third, because we do a lot of heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm. And you do that hands-on.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the things that you do outside of your business, where you are the hand and feet of Jesus, where you are what you say a Christian should be.
Yeah,
where are you the solution?
A lot of my stuff is like local church. We do backpack drives and food. We feed a lot of people, house a lot of people, and just stuff like that. I don't even put it as something so much that like I'm doing, as much as I'm a part of a body that's doing it. And so yeah.
But you have a few charities that you support, and you travel. And
I do.
Right?
I support I've supported for a long time a charity called Project Life. Right now, I'm trying my best to create a nonprofit arm of the business Unitus. We're working on that, and we're a percentage of everything that we sell from the brand will go to that nonprofit, and we'll be able to do a lot of great work in the inner community with it.
So what do you envision that nonprofit to do? Is that focused on social justice, on uniting us, or what is it?
I'm not so much like when you say like focused on social justice, I'm more so just like meeting the need wherever there's need. Like there's not in my mind, there's not necessarily a thing like, hey, this nonprofit is going to be centered around social justice. It's going to be a part of helping people. Like that's just it. Regardless of what color you are, regardless of where you are, if you're in need and we can meet the need, we're going to meet the need.
Mm-hmm. So today, with what is it, 3-4 years difference between what happened, and that's 3 years, pretty much exactly,
Yeah.
right? And you started your shoe brand, you're active, people have a little bit of a distance to it. What response are you getting right now? Is it changing at all? Is there more a resonance to what you're saying? Do they see that, you mentioned a little bit that you say some people came around and said, maybe
Right.
I overreacted in the
Right.
moment. What do you see right now in the locker room and the people that you talk with?
I think that's it. I think people are have I don't want to say moved. They haven't moved on from the moment of what happened and the tragedy that it was, but I think people have moved on from the polarization and the media and the way in which people have profited from pitting us against each other. And I think people have moved on from that. And I think I think that's been obvious to me. I think that there's a respect level for me, like in the locker room and across the league, where guys would be like, hey, I respect what you did. And maybe I don't even agree, but I respect what you did and the way that you handled yourself in doing it. And that, to me, that's all you can ask for. And so I think that definitely the tensions have decimated a lot. And people are kind of just getting back to living everyday life and recognizing that, hey, it's not that bad. And we're still all here trying to figure it out together.
It's interesting how you reframe the discussion, right? So I pushed a little bit and tried to figure out, that's why being social justice a couple of times, but you just really completely reframe the conversation and take it out of that controversial kind of a culture war context and really just focus on the gospel. Right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You're consistent in your message.
Yeah, I just think that there is so much good that is happening. There is so much good that can happen, and I think that in the way that we frame things, a lot of times we do more harm than good. And there's not that you were trying to do that in any way, but just like the terms, the social justice, I just think that they're so loaded these days. With things that don't actually matter, things that don't actually help people.
It's just natural that people say, hey, that's where it all started, so everything you do must be around that topic. But I think it took me a moment during the conversation, right? And it takes other people in a conversation with you to figure out, well, that's not the sphere that he's walking in. So we have to step out of that framework into a new framework and talk about the Bible, the gospel, and that's what you do. I admire that. That's pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mentioned before, you pick Bible verses or you quote them all the time. So you're rooted in that. I'm pretty sure there's a source of strength in those situations that you went through. How do you pick those for your shoes? Are they a reflection? Are you processing what happened in your life through the verses that
exactly
you choose?
that. So the shoe that we're actually going to be displaying today on the at the Museum of the Bible, those are the Judah 1 Lion of Judah. And so they have Proverbs 28:1, which is, the wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as lions. That is like my life verse. My middle name is Judah, and I have just been fascinated with lions, for quite some time now. And it just, for me, just again, like the way that I grew up, the anxiety that I've dealt with and deal with, that verse just hidden in my heart has been something that has encouraged me to get up and speak, encouraged me to stand, encouraged me to do so much. Because I'm trusting in his righteousness, not my own. And in doing that, I can do whatever he asked or calls me to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your question, yes, whatever I feel like speaks to me or that I feel like would really, really encourage somebody else in wearing the shoes.
So it's not like you have a list of verses that you go through and next shoe is this. You really react to what's going on in your life. And
I'm thinking
it's a very personal project.
Yes, I'm thinking if I'm at the free throw line, or if I'm on the bench, or if I'm in the game and I look down at my shoe, what verse would encourage me in a certain way? That's what I think of.
People are much more outspoken in sports right now about their faith.
Yeah, I tell you, it's like a tide is turning.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. And I think whatever is driving this, it's certainly a trend that people recognize and that they're outspoken about it, right? And like everybody's making a boilerplate statement right now before they answer the question of the journalist, right? How do you feel about this?
I absolutely love it. And I think that again, it speaks to the times we're in, that we were talking about, like the tensions are a little less. And I also think that people are just emboldened. Like as we see the world going in the direction that it's going in, I think there is just I choose Jesus. I'm not ashamed of that. I love Jesus, and I'm gonna be authentically myself. I'm not perfect. I don't have to be, and I think that people are resting in that more and more athletes are resting in that, and they're choosing to be vocal and outspoken about their faith.
Is there a network or a community of players that you know of each other, that you're sincere about your faith, that you exchange and talk about this stuff? Steph Curry is an outspoken Christian who writes with a Sharpie verses on his shoes. Is there?
I wish there was more, but there is. There's an internal group and like an internal just knowing of outspoken Christians. When you pass them, when you see them, when you play against them, it's like, hey, I know who you are, and I know what you believe, and I believe similar. So.
Yeah.
Sure.
So at what level is that? Just a general encouragement, or is there you talk about what you do in the league? How do you change things?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple. There are some that is just that general encouragement of seeing each other and knowing that you guys believe the same thing. There's also like the interpersonal, like phone calls and texts and encouraging each other. That's more of like a tight knit group of guys. But yeah.
Do you wish that's something you had at the time the whole thing went down?
Oh, for sure, for sure. But I had enough, man. I had my wife, I had my church family. At the time, funny enough, they sent me a video while I was in the Bible of everybody in the church standing up and saying, "Jonathan, I stand with you." And so I had a fair share of encouragement.
Some might say you can do all of this with the money, the fame, the influence that you have right now. What would you say to people, and what do you say to people in church, the kids that you speak with, how they can use the model of what you went through, the learnings that you went through, how you experienced God in the situations that you were in, and how they can apply that to their life?
I would say the verse comes to mind, he that saves his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for my sake will find it. And that's what I feel like I have aspired to do. Sometimes I've done it great, sometimes I've ran in the other direction, but I feel like what I would encourage young people and anybody to say, lose your life for the gospel, and God will keep you. He'll make your crooked path straight. He won't forsake you. That our hope won't fail. And I think that when this world paints this picture of opulence and luxury and money and prestige, but it's all on a foundation of nothingness. And I've experienced that firsthand, being in the position that God has placed me in. And so I would just encourage them that the gospel is true. Jesus Christ is Lord. And the more that you walk in that direction, doesn't mean that all your needs are always going to be met, but one, we have eternity, and God won't forsake you. God won't let you fail.
I want to be careful how I say this, right?
Okay.
No, but you can put pressure on, right? But if you look at the characters of the Bible, if you look at Abraham, if you look at David, if you look at the legends of faith, right? And how they acted on convictions, how they were in certain situations where they had to decide one way or the other. Take Abraham, right? Yeah. Sacrificing Isaac, being ready to do this, putting everything on the line, everything that he prayed for, put it on. And you put your career on the line, right? And I have to come back to that verse in Matthew, right? Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. And I think it's fair to say that you model this, right? And,
that's why you say you got to be careful. You said that. Okay,
I say that to put you in the line of those big names. That's a lot of pressure. But I think that's what the Bible is about, right? It teaches us the models of believers who are regular people. They are not those overhuman beings. They had their failures, and look at David, right? A fallen guy, and in every sense of the way. But God called him a man of God, a man of his desire, a man of his heart. That's what He said, right? So, and I can imagine and listen to your story and what you did, that God says, you're a man of His heart. So I just want to encourage that and speak that onto you. It's really inspiring to listen to your story, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people draw that from it. So thank you for that, and thank you for being here, Jonathan.
I'm not going to cry.
Please don't.
But, thank you for that. I appreciate that very much.
I appreciate you, brother. Yeah, so thank you for joining us. Pretty special episode, I think. So if you like this, please, give us a thumbs up, share people about this episode, and let them know about the stories that we tell you, like Jonathan's. And see you next time at Unscrolled. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked this conversation, if you learned something new, then share it with your family and friends, or leave us a review so more people can find out about the history, narrative, and impact of the Bible. Be sure to follow us here or on your social media platform of choice. See or hear you next time on Unscrolled.